Okay, so the first step in the servicing a lawnmower and a typical rider is just to remove the hood. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the hood. Okay, upon removal of the hood, you now have access to the engine, the battery, and also your wires. The first thing we would do in servicing an engine would be to look over it and make sure that there's nothing really obviously wrong with it. The first thing we would do in a service would be to remove the blower housing and make sure that your cooling fans are cleared of any debris or grass that you might have collected over the summer. So now I'm going to remove the blower housing and make sure that the cylinders are all clean. Upon removal of the blower housing, you now have access to your cooling fans, and as you can see, they're fairly clean. And what I'm going to do is just blow it off and make sure that there's nothing down under it. Remember, when you go to blow any pressured air on anything, that you do have safety glasses on. Ensure that objects will not fly up and hit you in the eye. Okay, so now I'm going to start and just completely service the engine now that we blew everything off. I'm going to start with draining the oil, changing the spark plug, changing the air filter, changing your oil filter, and then your fuel filter. Alright, when you go to replace the air filter, after you remove the cover, make sure that you have no debris or grass or any dirt buildup inside your cover. And also inspect your air filter. To look for any signs that there's been dirt indigestion. Now I'm going to change the oil filter, and I'm going to replace it with an OEM spec oil filter, specifically designed for this engine. Alright, when you go to replace a fuel filter, you've got two clamps on either side of the filter. One here and one here. These clamps hold the fuel line tight against the nipples of the fuel filter. So what you would do is remove the clamps. When you go to remove a fuel filter, you want to use a twisting motion to help remove the filter and replace with, once again, an OEM spec fuel filter. Also, when you go to install a fuel filter, you would normally have an arrow pointing towards the direction of the fuel flow. You want to make sure that you get it installed correctly. Otherwise, your filtration may not be very good. And then return the clamps to the original spot. Okay, we're just about done with the servicing the engine. Now all that's left is we need to reinstall the oil plug and fill it up with oil. And you want to make sure that the oil plug is tight. If it's not tight, you could risk oil leak without you knowing it. These engines normally take about a half to a quart and a half to about a quart and 3/4 of oil, give or take the size of the engine and the size of the oil filter. The bigger the oil filter, the more oil the filter will hold. Now, after you put the oil in, you will need to check it 2 to 3 times to ensure that it is at the correct level. In order to check these, you insert the dipstick, turn it counterclockwise until it pops down. After you read full, you would then need to start your engine, and you may notice a little bit of an oil drop, and that is normal because after you start it and run it, the oil filter is then filled up with oil, and then that's when you would need to add more oil. Okay, so now we've replaced the oil, the spark plug, the air filter, the oil filter, and fuel filter. What we need to do now is reinstall the blower housing, start up the tractor, and then recheck the oil and make sure it's full. Okay, so we've started the engine, we've ran it for about 2 to 3 minutes, made sure that the oil filter was full and that the oil was circulated through the engine. And I've checked it and it is full. So now we're going to move on to the battery. The battery is probably the next to the simplest thing. So what we're going to do is look for corrosion on the posts and on the cables and the connections. And as you can see, there is no corrosion anywhere here. What we do is put corrosive preventative on it to ensure that it won't get corrosion on it. And you just want to make sure that the post is covered completely. And this is just a preventative, that way it won't corrode. The next thing on servicing after the battery, and it doesn't matter how you do it, but right now I'm going to check all my tires and make sure that they are pumped up. The recommended pressure in the front would be 15 pounds. Tire for the back pressure would be 10 pounds. Alright, now we're just about done, but there's still just a few things left. We have the deck, and then we have to grease the whole unit. And the greasing, that's going to take some time. So what I'm going to do is remove the deck. That way I can access the blades, the belts, the pulleys, and the grease zerks very easily. Alright, so now I've got the deck out, and I'm just going to check for freedom of movement between any pivoting points, which one would be the tension handle. Right here, and then right here, and make sure all that moves nice and easily. Also, what I would check for would be for the free movement of any idler, and make sure that they move very freely. As you can see, they do. I would also inspect the belt and make sure that there is no worn spots or chunks missing or any breakage anywhere in the belt. And there is not. Now I'm just going to flip it over and inspect the underside of it. Make sure that the blades are not bent, or they have not ran over gravel or hit anything with the blades that would cause them to bend, nick, or occasionally, very rarely, break. Alright, to remove the blades, you will need either a breaker bar or an air gun. I'm going to use the air gun. Alright, I got them off. These are going to be going to the blade sharpening bench, and while they're over there, I will be continuing on how to service the deck. Alright, while the blades are being sharpened, the next step after the blades are off would be to scrape the deck, get any grass buildup that's under here out. The more grass you have built up under your deck, the poorer the quality of cut is, and I've seen it bad. And here you have the finished product after they've been sharpened. Now when reinstalling a blade, make sure that your sharpened side goes up and the beveled side of the blade comes down. So when you install it, once again, sharpened side goes up towards the top of the deck. Alright, after you reinstall the blades and get them all tightened back down, the next thing you want to look for is your tip to tip on each blade. To do that, you would simply line up the middle blade with one of the outer blades, and you would look at the difference in height between these two blades. That is called your tip-to-tip clearance. If one rides higher or lower than the other blade, one of these two blades could be bent, or it could be the deck. Now that we're done with the underside of the deck, I flipped it back over, and now we can grease it. The maximum grease that you can put in a spindle is 20 to 25 pumps. Really no more than that. It shouldn't need any more than that. But you've got 3 spindles, 1, 2, and 3, and you also have your gauge wheels that also need grease. You've got a grease fitting on this side and a grease fitting on this side. This would be the only thing you would grease on this deck. Then you would also need to grease your tractor. Now the tractor doesn't have nearly as many grease fittings as the deck. You've got 2 for the axle and 1 for the wheels. And that's about the only thing that needs greased on the tractor. Now, occasionally you will have a tractor that's got more on it than this tractor does. While the deck is off, you would also want to look under your tractor and just check the belts, your idler pulleys, and make sure that, you know, nothing under there is really wrong. You would want to check the belt for any breaks, cracks, any missing chunks of the belt, anything that would cause it to break or fail during operation. Also, you would want to look for the any, you know, frozen up idlers, pulleys, bearings while you're under there. And I have done that, and I've put the deck back on. So all we have left to do is put the hood on, go out to the cleaning pad, clean it, and it's ready to go.